You're set. That's the only one that has that, by the way. A former commissioner requested it. No, I forget who, but not Nora, maybe Shannon. Did they give me the high sign? Good morning, everyone. It is June 2nd, 2021. It's 9:30 a.m., and this is the Peace River, Minnesota Regional Water Supply Authority Board of Directors meeting. If you're able, stand. Commissioner Langford's going to help us with the invocation, and then we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to be here today, Lord. We thank you for the opportunity that you've given each one of us board members, Lord, and we pray for wisdom and knowledge from you that we may serve the community to the best of our ability, Lord. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for the rain that we've been getting, Lord. We pray for more and in the upcoming weeks and months to come. And Lord, we just want to lift up our men and women in the military and all branches of the military and all of our first responders that put their lives on the line each and every day to help protect us and keep the law and order in this land, dear Heavenly Father. And we lift them up to you, ask that you keep your hand of protection upon them at all times. Go with us, dear Heavenly Father, as we travel into this world and learn to help one another, dear Heavenly Father. We ask all these things now in Jesus' holy name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
To start with, let's do this. Steve Botello is going to come forward and do some opening remarks. So go right ahead, Steve.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you, Steve Botello, Deputy County Administrator for Sarasota County Government. I'd like to welcome everyone to Sarasota County and the board chambers this morning. It's an honor to host the meeting today, and on behalf of the Sarasota County Commission and County Administration, we'd like to recognize Pat Lehman. I believe this is the last meeting that we're going to host with you as the Executive Director, so you've been a huge asset to the region and everything that you do, so very much appreciated. Thank you, Pat. And with that, we hope they have a great meeting this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. We're going to do our usual introductions, but before we do, and I think it's the only, I just spoke with him, Charlotte County Commissioner Ken Dougherty. He should be here or he's out in the hall. There he is, okay, who always was a long-standing board member here, did a much better job than I ever did, and we love having him here. With that, I'm going to turn things over to Commissioner Langford, who's going to do the commemoration of Sarasota County's centennial. And Renee, he's going to hand you the two documents when we're done. But before we do that, and I promised not to do this, but I guess it's the first promise I'll break at this meeting, our longtime employee, Ann Lee, her family is the well-known, her mother's side, right, Ann, is the very well-known, long-time Whitaker family. And they have photos that they're going to send to you electronically. And I promised them $5,000 for those photos, so I hope I wasn't out of line there. But Ann, that is a very, very big deal. And Renee will fix you up and make your family very proud. Elton, it's all yours, my friend.
Okay, sir. The Peace River, Minnesota Regional Water Supply Authority, created pursuant to Chapter 373 Florida Statutes and interlocal agreement pursuant to Chapter 163 Florida Statutes, in lawful session and regular order of business properly presented, finds that whereas Sarasota was largely uninhabited until the Whitaker family established a settlement at Yellow Bluff in 1852, and whereas the region began to prosper after Sir John Hamilton Gillespie arrived from Scotland with additional settlers and resources, And whereas Sarasota County was created on July the 1st, 1921, when Governor Kerry A. Hardy signed a bill dividing Manatee County, and whereas following World War II, many veterans returned to the Sarasota area where they had trained for battle and where they built homes and families, and whereas during the past century, the population of Sarasota County has grown from under 5,000 to over 400,000 residents, and whereas today, Sarasota County is a vibrant and thriving community with national and international visitors returning each year for its unparalleled natural beauty and culture and recreational experiences. And whereas Sarasota County is a regional partner joining cooperatively with DeSoto, Manatee, and Charlotte counties in assuring a reliable and safe water supply for the region. And whereas it is important to celebrate the role of history in our lives and to emphasize that history is an important part of shaping both the present and the future. Now therefore be it resolved, the Peace River, Minnesota Regional Water Supply Authority does hereby join in commemorating Sarasota County on its centennial celebration, done at Sarasota, Florida, this second day of June 2021.
Well, very nice. Renee, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Hi, everyone. My name's Renee DiPilato. I'll come up to the mic. Hi, everyone. My name's Renee DiPilato. I'm Director of Libraries and Historical Resources for Sarasota County, and it's been my honor to be the chair or the lead for our county centennial celebration. So over the last 100 days, we've celebrated our county, we've honored what is special about Sarasota, and we look forward to thinking about the future of our county as well. So we still have about 30 days left in our celebration. We invite you to join us for our various events that are going on, and thank you for recognizing our centennial today. Thanks so much.
Perfect. Thank you, Elton. I do have one speaker card, but let's start with our introductions, starting right here on your left, front row, and we'll circulate through the room.
Hi, Ford Rhodes with the Peace River Water Authority. Mike Coates from the Water Supply Authority. Richard Anderson, Authority staff. Ryan Messer, HDR.
I'm Mark Lehigh with the Florida Section American Water Works Association.
Laura Donaldson of Anson Donaldson Bond.
Steve Vitello, Sarasota County Government.
Doug Ekman with Kinley Horn and Associates.
Heather Ripley, Kimmy Moore.
Tom Wilson with Wade Shrimp. Mike Milet, Sarasota County Utilities.
Ethan Morton, Peter Grantham.
Morning, Craig Reedy, Charlotte County Utilities. Kevin Morris, Manatee County.
Morning, Stephanie Ishii with Hazen and Sawyer.
Ken Doherty, Charlotte County.
Joseph Jones, Sarasota County.
Katie Gilmore, Manatee County. Madeline Fender, Kimley Horn.
Leah, Professor Water Resources.
Karen Howard, Johnson Engineering. Bob Cushing, Rollo Engineers.
Mr. Osler, Arturo.
Florian Popescu, DMK.
Matt Catrio, Charlotte County.
Jean Stacio, Charlotte County.
Jennifer Gosta, Swiftmud.
John Ramsey, Water Authority.
Mark Jones, CHA, formerly Reese Engineering.
Morning, Terry Holcomb with Authority Staff. Morning, Katie Duda with HDR Engineering.
John Canfield, Peace River.
And I'm Mike Chapel, Authority staff.
Okay, now that we know who you are, because we're going to be sitting watching, looking at you all day, and you're going to be watching us. We're going to be on item number 2. Who's going to take us through this? I don't have the names on here. There you are, Terry. This is item number 2, recognition of Florida Section American Water Works Association Regional 10 Best Tasting Drinking Water Award.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Terry Holcomb with Authority Staff. It is my pleasure this morning to introduce Mr. Mark Lehigh to present this year's Florida section of the American Water Works Association Region 10 Drinking Water Taste Test Award. Mr. Lehigh is a section manager with the Hillsborough County Public Utilities Department. However, he's here with us today representing the Florida section of the American Water Works Association in his role as the Florida section director on the National AWWA board. Mark has been an active volunteer member of AWWA for over 20 years and has held numerous board positions with the organization, including actually chair of the organization in 2015. With that, I'll turn it over to Mark.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Board. Thank you, Chairman, for allowing me the time to come here and present this award on behalf of the Florida section. Glasses. The Florida section of American Water Works Association is dedicated to ensuring Florida's present and future generations a sufficient supply of high-quality drinking water by providing critical information and opportunities to over 2,500 members. On a national level, in 1988, Drinking Water Week was established to occur each year during the first full week in May by the American Water Works Association, AWWA, and its partners to provide a unique opportunity for both water professionals and the communities they serve to recognize the vital role water plays in our daily lives. To celebrate Drinking Water Week, the FSAWWA annually hosts a contest to judge the best tasting drinking water in each of 12 regions across Florida. The local FSAWWA Region 10, comprised of Charlotte, DeSoto, Hardee, Manatee, and Sarasota counties, Best Tasting Drinking Water Contest was held at Sarasota County Carlton Water Treatment Plant on Friday, May 7th. The winner from each of the 12 regions will be invited to compete in the 2021 State's Best Tasting Drinking Water Contest to be held in Orlando this November. It is my honor to announce that this year's Region 10 winner is the Peace River, Minnesota Regional Water Supply Authority. And I'd like to invite some of those folks up here. I think we have some of them in the crowd here. The folks that protect the health and safety of the water and also make it taste really good. So congratulations. And I have an award. How about that? Here you guys go on behalf of the Florida section of the Water Works.
Almost had a puzzle.
Yes, yes.
Somebody hold this under the name.
Yeah.
You guys deserve it, earned it.
We have one open to the public before we move on to consent and the rest of the agenda. Eric Howard. Yep, I'm sorry. It's okay. Yeah, yes, sir.
Eric Howard, 9275 Southwest Pickens Avenue, Arcadia, Florida, 34269. Sorry I don't have any other children with me today for y'all to be more entertained. But Elton, Mr. Langford, thank you for that prayer, that opening invocation. I appreciate that. I hope you all had a great Memorial Day weekend and had a great celebration of that. Vice President Harris commented about having a great long weekend. I myself took the time to memorialize the fallen soldiers that have fought and died for our great country that we live in, that gives us the freedom to speak openly and to participate in government for the people, by the people. And so Jesus said, "Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends." And that's what all the fallen soldiers have done for us. And then laying down someone's life also means dedicating your life to something else. And so you, as all elected officials, have given time of yourself to our country and to our area. representing the various counties for those things, and I appreciate that. Elected officials in Georgia try to do the right thing and help strengthen the integrity of our election laws. And Major League Baseball took a stance in that they wanted to politicize those events and those things of trying to have strength in our elections. And so I would like for the authority and the members write in the contract for the new water rates that are coming up to double whatever the Major League Baseball water usage is. Let's say it's 100,000 gallons a year, charge double that rate and specifically write that into the contract to make a statement in regards to those measures on that. So with that, I thank you for your time, and I'll enjoy the rest of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. You're always welcome to come and speak. We do enjoy your children, and you need to keep bringing them. They're the best part of you and your wife, buddy. Okay. We're on a consent. No commissioner has pulled anything. So the chair will entertain a motion, consent items 1 through 5.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Commissioner Truax, seconded by Commissioner Langford. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Chair votes aye. 1 through 5 moves forward with a 4-0. I'm going to have to keep from saying 5-0 in my other job. 4-0 vote for approval. We're now on, Richard Anderson is going to help us with the regular agenda, item number 1, water supply conditions. Good morning, Richard.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, board members, Richard Anderson of your staff. There we go. Item 1, as usual, is the water supply conditions update. This update will cover the water supply conditions through May, and then we'll look at the deliveries to the customers for the month of April. As you can see here, rain, obviously a big topic we're all hearing about lately, or lack thereof, as you have heard. For the month of May, we averaged a whopping 0.6 inches of rain in the basin, so very little rain. As you can see, it's been a kind of a spotty season. There we go. Up and down, 1 month we'll have a decent amount of rain, the next month almost no rain. So for March, we had almost no rain, again, 0.4 inches. April was about 3.5 inches. So as you'll see, enough to keep some water flowing in the river, but not enough to sustain us and supply all of our needs. As you can see here, here's the Peace River flows. Through the end of May, we were down below the 130 CFS that we were required to meet to take water off the river. We were actually at 98 CFS, so we have no water available at this time to pull from the river. However, we did have some water the previous couple of months. As you can see, we averaged for March about 18 MGD. April was 32. Got a little bit, I apologize. April, we had about 32 MGD, and then May, the first part of May, we did get some water. We averaged about 20 MGD, but that stopped about May 12th, so we had no water after May 12th to withdraw. You can see on surface water storage, about the same spot we were in last year at this time. We through May 15th, we had 5.2 billion gallons in the surface water system. As we sit here today, we're down a little bit lower. We're about 4.75 billion. Coming into the tail end of the rainy season, they're threatening rain. Hopefully we get it real soon, but once that rain starts, we will have about the typical 2 to 3 week lag to let the river flush and let the water quality improve so that we could start taking water. ASR storage, we did not need to use any water this year from ASR. The rains held up, early in the dry season. We got enough rain to sustain us where we felt like we did not need to take water out of the ASR, so we saved that water, kept it in the system. We had about 9 billion gallons at the start of the dry season. We did pull about 100 million out for testing the equipment, taking water quality samples and so forth. So where we sit today, we're at right about 8.9 billion gallons in the ASR system. Now, of that, we project about 60% of that is usable water that we can actually harvest and withdraw. So we're about 5.3 billion gallons of usable water in the ASR system as of today. Looking at the total supply, this is the surface water total plus the ASR. We have about 369 days, which is about, obviously 12 months at our average daily flow of about 27 to 28 MGD. If we were to supply at the contractual amount of 34.7, we have about 303 days or about 10 months of supply on hand. Now we'll switch to the regional production. If you're looking at your board books, there was a typo or a couple of math errors on my part on this, so this slide represents the correct figures. The authority in April, we delivered 29 MGD. Your board book showed the county facilities at 46. That was incorrect. We actually, the county and cities produced about 54.3 MGD. Total capacity was just over 83 million gallons combined. 3.7 of that went to the non-authority customers supplied by Manatee County. Total used by the authority and our customers was just under 80 million gallons for the month of April. Going through county by county or customer by customer, April for Charlotte County, you used 12.7 from the authority, 500,000 from your burn store facility for a total of 13.2. As you can see on the annual average chart down below, the red bar is the 12-month running average. It's trending up just a tick from the 2012 number, or 2020 number. So demands are not really dropping at all. In fact, they're showing a slight increase. DeSoto County for April used 0.7 from the authority. Total usage was just under 1 million gallons. Your 12-month running average is about 0.94 MGD. For Manatee County supplied your customers 39.6 MGD. You exported another 3.8 to Sarasota County and about 3.8 to those consecutives on the coast. Total production from the Manatee County facility, sorry about that again, was 47.1 million gallons a day. And again, as you can see, the 12-month running average pretty much mirroring what we saw in 2020, 36.2. For Sarasota County purchased 13.6 from the authority, again imported about 3.6 from others, and self-supplied about 5.2 from your facilities. Total usage was 22.4, and this reflects the fact that the Carlton facility is now back online, producing water at about 5 MGD rate, and so you've been able to reduce that take from the authority back, and reflects that reflects the amount here shown. So, City of Northport took 2 MGD from the authority in April. They produced 1.2 MGD. They also imported about 0.2 from Sarasota County. Total usage was 3.4. And looking at the regional demands, again, total regional demand, 12-month running average is 76.3 MGD, almost exactly what we saw in 2020. When you do the math, looking back 10 years, that shows an average increase regionally of about 2.4% per year growth. Looking at the utilization here, again, we have 104.7 available. We use that 83.4 total within the region, leaving only 21.3 MGD available, or almost 80% of the supply was utilized. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions you have.
Any questions? No, but I'm going to make a comment here. Plants need refurbishing. Sarasota County's was offline. Our partners, all the 4 counties in Peace River Authority, that's why a regional water authority is appropriate. You can see from the volumes available and that the actual usage is substantially like it was on average, the rolling average from last year, and we're still, the last page that was up there, the previous page, still shows Peace River Authority that we're using 80% of our available capacity. And that is the reason that we just got a 50-year permit 2 years ago from SwiftMud. That's the reason that we're now planning in 2030 to have the third reservoir online. And there is, plants have to go offline for refurbishing and fixing. And we just went through that. Manatee County Commissioner Cruz just went through that. And that's all it is. And as commissioners, we get a lot of emails, and the water world is not ending. Everything is fine. I think that needs to be put into the record. When you have almost 5 billion gallons in the two reservoirs and another 9 billion gallons in ASR, aquifer storage and recovery wells, that the only time we're using it right now is to test that the pumps work. I just felt the need to say that on behalf of this commission, that everything is fine. Would anyone else like to add to that? Perfect. Okay, thank you. Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you.
We're on item number 2, the strategic plan, and that is Terry Holcomb. Strategic plan dashboard, it's a staff presentation. This is a status update only, and there'll be no motion necessary, but Terry, it's all yours for the next 4 hours.
You don't want to give me that option. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Terry Holcomb with Authority staff. You kind of took my thunder. This presentation is for information only and is provided as an introduction to the development of our strategic plan dashboard. So earlier this year, at the February meeting, the board approved our strategic plan 2021 update. And here you can see the key components of that plan. We have our vision and mission statement and our 4 core values. And each of those core values, if you remember, came with companion objectives and initiatives that are being used to reinforce and drive our strategic plan. So at that meeting, the board asked staff to periodically check in and identify the progress in meeting the strategic plan initiatives. So as the staff began working on those initiatives, we recognized that there is a common theme kind of being developed. And it included collaboration in the region, transparency within the organization, and some education and outreach efforts. Kind of resonated throughout the entire initiatives. So we discussed how best to provide that information and those updates back to the board, as well as to our members and the general public. And we looked at some examples in the area, similar organizations. Charlotte County has kind of an example on their financials website of a nice little dashboard, kind of gives us a snapshot. And we thought that was a great way to disseminate that information out to the members, customers, and also to the board. So we wanted to share our progress so far with the board. The dashboard we're thinking about creating for the strategic plan would be accessed directly from our website and would provide an interactive view into several of the authority's departments, including finance, operations, and water resources, including access to some of our water quality data, which I think a lot of folks are really interested in seeing. So there'll be some links that'll also allow people to view our CIP projects, as well as a link to our strategic plan objectives and initiatives. So this is just a kind of a snapshot of what we envision the landing page would look like from access from our website to this strategic plan dashboard. It's an example of what we envision the monthly dashboard would contain. You can see we have some areas dedicated to the financials here on the left side, just some snapshots of some information people might want to see. We have our operation snapshot, and some of those might look really familiar because you just saw them in Mr. Anderson's presentation. But it's basically the previous months, what was given to the board is up on our website for view by the public. And then our water quality snapshot, our water resources dashboard, we were able to take some graphics that were used through our water quality master plan that was completed last year. And the intent here is that we would have our water quality parameters accessible for folks to search, look up, and see some trend lines. And then, of course, we've got our project spotlight with access to our CIP projects and our strategic plan snapshot. Each of these having links at the bottom that folks could then click on and go do a deeper dive into those areas. Just as an example, if we were to click on the financials dashboard, the public would be able to sort and look at information, sort it by fiscal year, by our cost center, and also they can look at all of the expenses. This one just happens to be a snapshot where all of our expenses were collapsed into one, but you could do individual ones too. And I just want to give props to Ann Lee because she has kind of been the trailblazer in getting all of this information in a database that we can bring in. We're looking at using Microsoft BI or business intelligence software to do that. That's a common practice. And I did just want to verify that there is no way that someone from outside the organization viewing this on our website could have access into our files, just from a security standpoint.
Perfect.
So that's just a visual of what we're thinking people would be able to sort, look through each of those. So the intent would be to have each of the department's interactive data accessible through these linked dashboards. And we're currently just about finished with all of the financials data. And we'll be kind of QCing that data, kind of beta testing it before we actually publish it to the website. And then we'll move on to the water quality data. We're fortunate enough, we have a summer intern this year, an engineering intern, Ethan Morton. He's here with us today. And he is working on collecting all of our 40 years worth of water quality data and putting all that information into a spreadsheet that will allow us to have that interactive ability on the website. And then, of course, our operations projects information and our strategic plan information are already compiled. We're just working on putting that in a format that the BI software can read and then translate into information for folks viewing it. So we're excited about being able to share this information to our members and to the board, customers, as well as the general public, and hope that it will provide value for them and also promote collaboration and communication and transparency throughout the agency. So I'll take any questions at this time that you might have.
We're on item number 2. Any questions? Commissioner Troy.
I don't have any questions. I just think this is a fantastic tool. And so to see this moving forward, I think is going to be really good with Charlotte County's initiative too, trying to work into water quality and get more transparent. This works together very well with the authority. And so very excited because I'm making notes to make sure that our guy gets back in touch with you guys to make sure we're organizing all this data.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Anything else? Terry, thank you, but don't go anywhere because we're now on a part of the agenda that's parts 3A, B, and C. And we'll start with A. Terry Holcomb is going to help us with that. And Katie Duty from HDR is going to also participate, I believe.
Great. Thanks, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Terry Holcomb. This presentation is for the Peace River Regional Reservoir number 3 project, and it's provided for informational purposes only. No action is required. So the development of the 3rd raw water storage reservoir has been included as a component of the Peace River Facility Expansion Project since it was identified as an alternative water supply source in our 2015 Integrated Regional Water Supply Plan. Now, in the 2020 update to that regional water supply plan, we identified that additional supplies for the region would be needed by 2030. Now, knowing that mitigation opportunities were dwindling within the Peace River and Myakka River basins, it was important to get out in front of the design to identify not only the types and quantity of environmental impacts from siting the new reservoir on the RV Griffin Reserve, but also to identify the available options we have within those basins to meet those mitigation requirements. So with cooperative funding from the Water Management District, the authority contracted with HDR Engineering in September of last year to develop the siting and feasibility phase study of the PR3 project. Now, this project has an 18-month duration and is scheduled to be complete in December of this year. So here with us this morning is Ms. Katie Duty. She's HDR's project manager, and she'll provide the second update to this project. They have one more update that'll be occurring in December of this year. So at that time, I'll turn it over to Katie.
Good morning.
Good morning.
As Terry said, for the record, my name is Katie Duty. I'm the project manager for HDR for your PR3 project, and I'm really happy to be here this morning to give everybody an update on how this first phase of the project is going. This morning, we're going to do just a quick update on the PR3 project as a whole. What is it? Why are we doing it? We'll talk more specifically about the purpose of the siting and feasibility phase that we're currently in. I'll give you some highlights of the work we're doing right now and an update on our decision process, and then talk about next steps. So as a reminder, the PR3 project, as Terry talked about, is going to provide long-term water supply reliability for the region. Major project features include a new 6 to 9 billion gallon reservoir that's being evaluated and determined. There'll be a new river intake along the Peace River, as well as raw water pipelines from that intake back to the water campus. And then improvements to the existing pump station that conveys water from reservoir number 1 over to the water treatment plant. Terry gave you a quick highlight on the schedule. So the overall PR3 project, we're currently in the siting and feasibility phase. We have about 3 years allocated for design and permitting of the project, another 3 years for construction. And then as we've talked about previously, filling a reservoir of this size can take some time. And so we've got about 2 years allocated to that. Elements associated with the siting and feasibility phase we started last September and will wrap up at the end of this year. And the importance of this phase is really providing a process to make some major decisions. Where are pieces of infrastructure going to go? What size might these be? And how is the whole project configured with existing infrastructure and new infrastructure? And as Terry talked about, mitigation and permitting is going to be a big element to the success of this project. And so it's going to identify a path forward and approach for how we're going to mitigate the wetlands when the new reservoir goes in. We'll also be providing a cost estimate update for the overall project, and then establish a direction to move from this phase to future phases. Major decisions to be made in the siting and feasibility phase of the project include determining where on the reserve this new reservoir will go. So to orient you, on the right side of the screen, we've got an aerial. The blue triangle is the RV Griffin Reserve. You'll see Res 1 is the horseshoe-shaped reservoir. Res 2, your existing above-ground reservoir, is next to it. We're looking on the southern side of the site primarily to site the third reservoir. Mitigation for Reservoir 2 was done on the northern end of the site, and we're looking to avoid impacting those that mitigation because it's costly and very difficult permitting-wise. So we're siting the reservoirs down on, we've got a couple different footprints you can see there. Those are for 9 billion gallon footprints, and we've got a few different configurations that look at balancing wetland impacts and other infrastructure that's out on the site. We're also looking at siting the new intake along the river and the pipeline routing that goes back from that intake over to the water campus. One of our alternatives looks at adding an additional intake capacity at the existing intake, which is the photo you'll see on the left is the existing intake on the river. We're also looking at 3 other locations upriver, and those are to consider potential future impacts to sea level rise and salinity and water quality within the river. We're looking at interconnections with the existing facility and the new infrastructure. How will water move from the river to the different storage facilities, the reservoirs and the ASR? How will you move water between those? And then how will you move them back over to the plant? And last, we've talked about this, the permitting and mitigation. We're looking at a series of options to mitigate the kind of bright pink on the Aerial in the upper right-hand corner is the previous mitigation that was done on the reserve property for Reservoir 2. This Reservoir 3 mitigation probably will include a combination of options. It may be some on-site mitigation. We're looking at potential for either adjacent partnerships for ecosystem restoration or broader regional. And then we're also looking at bank credits as a possibility. So one of the goals of this phase is to make decisions that really evaluate the benefits and the cost. If you make decisions for this project purely based on benefits, you start to drive the project cost up. If you make decisions for a project this big purely based on costs, you may end up missing the bar on some of your project goals. You might have to compromise on water quality or reliability or sustainability. So we've developed a multi-criteria decision process that's going to evaluate all of those pieces. This decision process started back last year with a series of facilitated workshops. For each decision, we developed objectives and criterias, assigned priorities and weights to those. Our current effort and ongoing effort is on the collaboration with authority staff to understand current and future operational needs, as well as doing the technical evaluation. So we're looking at alternatives, evaluating the feasibility of those alternatives, and looking at constraints that might exist based on any of those. A bit of the work that's happened and is continuing to ongo. So we've looked at operational needs, functionality, and flexibility. We've started conducting proactively with the different regulatory agencies, introducing them to the project. What is it? Why are we doing it? What's the timeline? What are the potential environmental benefits, but also what are those impacts? You can see in the middle of the screen a series of both state and federal entities that we've had early conversations with. We really want to understand what are their requirements going to be on the authority in order to inform our permitting plan. So we can develop a plan from the beginning to help move this project forward and try to avoid delays. And then we've talked to some possible partners for regional mitigation opportunities as well. We reviewed a lot of existing data as well as collected some new data in this phase. So looking at all the previous Reservoir 2 design and construction information, studies conducted by others. The authority staff have significant operational dam safety data that we've reviewed for Reservoir 2. We've done some initial field work environmentally, looking at the wetlands that are out there, vegetation, threatened and endangered species. We've done some additional geotech on the reserve and installed a couple wells that will tie into the broader groundwater monitoring system the authority has. And then lastly, there's been water quality sampling in the river, upriver from the existing intake, which allows us to further evaluate sea level rise potential. And then one of the other things we're doing is continuing to look at state of the industry, kind of best practices from other utilities that have multiple water supply sources, and how do you allow that to inform design decisions? And then also down the road looking at recognition opportunities so the authority continues to be a best tasting and award-winning water supply. So the next steps in this is to wrap up our technical evaluation, go back to that decision framework, calculate scores, estimate some costs, and calculate the benefit cost ratio for each alternative. And as Terry said, we'll be back in December with some updates and some recommendations on alternatives. So I think I've walked through all these, but next steps is wrap up the evaluation work, develop a new cost estimate based on the specifics of the alternatives we're going to recommend, and then we'll come back in about 6 months and talk to you about where we think the project should go next. And with that, Terry and I are happy to take any input or questions.
Any questions from the commission? No, that was pretty complete. Oh, I'm sorry. Who are you? Oh, it's Pat
I know.
Raymond.
You
Yes.
said commissioner, so I held my hand down. But Katie, can you go back to the schedule slide way up front?
Probably be faster if I went out of it and back in, but sure.
There we go. Just for the board's knowledge, if you look at the blue, the design and permitting, well, number one, the green, Swiftmud does have a funding agreement right now to fund half of that. Last week at the governing board meeting for Swiftmud, their board approved 50% funding of that blue segment coming up in the next 3 years. The critical path is when we get to the construction, and those dollars are going to zoom. And it's very critical we stay in tune and try to leverage the funding from Swiftmud. The district recognizes the need for alternatives water supply, regional authorities, but I will tell you, we are in tight competition with Tampa Bay Water and Polk County. So you'll see when we get to the budget how critical it is that we maintain our influence and leverage for those funds. Thank you.
Anything else? I'll just add that we have an extremely technically competent staff and administration. I think extremely competent consultant teams out there. And in addition to all of that, we have a certain level of kindness that occurs when dealing with this board. For instance, there was a commissioner who kept, a little intensely, kept pushing, why does it take 10 years? Why does it take 10 years? That commissioner is now the chairman, and he had to be told privately, offline, yeah, you get all the other parts because that was what you did for a living, but it takes 2 years to fill the reservoir. So Terry and Katie, thank you for your kindness, and it's firmly, every time I look at this, I just grin because I always will feel that that last bar is there as a reminder to me. Thank you. Anything else, ladies? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, we're on Part B, Regional Integrated Loop System Phases 2B and 2C, Feasibility and Routing Study. We have Ford Ritz, our project engineer, and then Doug Ekman and Heather Ripley from Kimley Horn are going to help us with that.
I was just trying to do it this way. I was just trying to get started for you.
And this one also is just a status update, and no motion will be necessary. Hey,
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. For the record, I'm Ford Ritz of your staff, and I'm briefly going to discuss the project background on the 2B and 2C. And then I'll introduce Kimley Horn, and they'll run through the project update and summary and feedback from meetings we've had with stakeholders along the way. The contract with Kimley Horn was board approved in December of 2020, and the notice to proceed was issued in January 2021. So it has a 15-month schedule, and it's anticipated to be completed in the spring of 2022. The fee for the project is just under $400,000, and it's co-funded with SwiftMud at a 50% rate. Historically, the Regional Integrated Loop System, which includes the Phase 2 interconnect pipelines and the Phase 3 interconnect pipelines that will be discussed this morning, have been studied by the authority all the way back in the early 2000s, culminating with a study in 2006 that recommended some routes, and some of those routes will be discussed this morning. As you'll see shortly in the presentation, the 2B, 2C interconnect will extend the existing Phase 2 interconnect to the Sarasota County Water Treatment Plant, Carlton Water Treatment Plant, and this will provide a redundant connection between the Peace River facility and the Carlton Water Treatment Plant. And so the 2B, 2C will provide the backup to this, and that initial pipeline was completed in 2002. So why is this crucial? Excuse me. It's crucial because the Carlton Water Treatment Plant is basically the hub between the Peace River facility and eventually the Manatee Water Treatment Plant, which are the two largest water treatment plants in the region. So it'll be very important in the future during emergency events for us to be able to move water from south to north or north to south, as this will be discussed later. So from a regional standpoint, a second connection to the Carlton Water Treatment Plant will increase the resiliency and reliability of the pipeline. And now I'd like to introduce Doug Ekman and Heather Ripley. Sorry.
Good morning, Doug.
Thank you, Ford. Doug Ekman with Kimley Horn, project manager for the Phase 2B, 2C interconnect feasibility study. Our process to date is that we've had workshops with the authority staff on several factors, demands, emergency scenarios. We've also had meetings with your members, customers, and partners. And I would like to thank publicly the staffs of Sarasota County and Charlotte County, the City of Northport, and the Inglewood Water District for meeting with us, really being engaged, offering a number of excellent suggestions that we will consider going forward and incorporate into our thinking. We developed a whole list of routes, a chart of routes, which I'll show you in a second, with the philosophy that we didn't want to leave any stone unturned. You know, here's all the possibilities that anybody's ever thought of, including those that were addressed in the 2006 study. And at this point, we've narrowed those down into a set of routes that are truly feasible and beneficial regionally. And I'll step you through where we are to date. So this is our map of all routes considered, no stone left unturned. And it's a combination of routes that were studied in 2006 that Ford mentioned, routes proposed by others, routes that we saw, routes that your staffs identified. In this graphic, you will see the Phase 2B, 2C, and 2D alignments that are also being considered that were the preferred alignments from the 2006 study prepared by Post-Buckley that Ford mentioned. And I know you've seen that map over the years. It's been in many authority exhibits. Phase 2 has been constructed. So our first meeting was with Charlotte County, and I'd like to highlight key things that came out of that meeting. The routes in orange were seen as the most beneficial in terms of regional interconnectivity and possible future delivery points, and also a potential interconnect that was identified. Your staff and your engineer, Jones Edmonds, had a very good suggestion of continuing west on East River Road and crossing the Maca River at that location, which we're investigating. And it does look promising. So that meeting was very productive. Our next meeting was with Sarasota County, and again, it was very productive. The staff identified, if the upper left there, you'll see that orange line heading north from a continuation of an FP&L easement, and that alignment is an abandoned Lee Road right-of-way that has not been reassigned to anything, and it's pretty open, and we had not previously identified that. So now we are going to investigate that alignment. The staff also suggested that the secondary loops that go toward around the plantation on an abandoned water plant, that there's still a tank at that site, in a county-owned site, or the Venice Gardens water plant, might have regional benefits if we determine that we need an interim pumping and storage facility in order to have the capacity in the new pipeline with a reasonable pipe diameter. Those would be good locations for booster pumping or delivery points that to South Sarasota County. For example, why pump water all the way to Carlton just to repump it back south to growth areas in the south part of Sarasota County, when maybe it make more sense to deliver some water right there at one of those sites. So that was an excellent suggestion. Our next meeting was with the City of Northport, and again, it was very productive, very cooperative, but they did ask us to take these two alignments off the table, Price Boulevard and Grove Street going south to north, because the right-of-ways and the street size just really don't lend themselves to a large pipeline project, and we agree with that. And so we have taken those routes out of consideration. So then we had a meeting with Ray Burrows, the executive director of the Inglewood Water District, and they are a part of this Welland Park development. Major development is to be served by the Inglewood Water District. The other part is to be served by the city of Northport. He observed that if we were to do an alignment from east to west, going past that Southwest Water Treatment Plant future, you'll see that on the exhibit, that is a roadway that's not built yet. It's under design, Minnesota Beach roadway. So that offers an interesting opportunity to work in a pipeline before the road is actually constructed, which would be a huge efficiency. Well, he observed that if we were to go that far west, and then heading north there is an FP&L easement, major wide easement that we are investigating if that's a possibility that we could utilize. But if we got to that point, there's plenty of opportunities for future interconnects with the Inglewood Water District without needing to construct the Phase 2D segment that's been talked about since 2006. So that was an interesting observation. So we started with this, and now we're at this. These are the alignments that we're suggesting have enough feasibility and interest and benefits that we will really study in detail. And you'll notice that we still have retained a parallel North Regional Transmission Main. If we were just to increase capacity to Carlton and just provide a second backup pipeline, probably the most efficient way to do that would simply be to twin the 42-inch regional transmission main. However, you wouldn't have any of the other benefits of interconnectivity with that. We've also taken out of consideration pipelines going south to north through the public lands because there's no added benefit and there was no interest from the members in that type of alignment. The interest was really in the high growth areas of Charlotte County and Sarasota County in options for a south regional loop. We've broken those options down into segments and nodes so that we can do a systematic analysis and provide you with a structured recommendations for going for the pipeline alignments. Heather Ripley, our project engineer, will step you through our next activities. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I just want to give a quick update on our schedule and our next steps of our project. The recommended routes for evaluation is what we're working on right now that Doug was just talking about. Part of that evaluation is recommending transmission pipe sizing. So pipe sizing will be considering all the members, the customers, and also the partners. Their demands not only with the current contracts, but also with the future 2040 and 2070 demands, and also the anticipated supplies. So we'll be looking at that for the pipeline sizing, as well as some of the emergency scenarios, and using that applicable to the pipeline sizing as well. From there, we're going to summarize that in a technical memo. The technical memo then will be provided to your authority staff for review, and also to work through at a workshop with them. And then we'll be going and continuously working from summer into the winter. From there, we're going to further evaluate these routes that we have selected and have worked through and recommended. And those routes, part of that evaluation was dependent on a collective meeting with the authority staff as well as with the other project teams. And we came up with a non-cost criteria methodology to evaluate the routes. In addition, we'll be looking at the capital and also operational costs of each route and segment. And then also the regional benefit will be considered in that as well. And all those will tie into an evaluation report. The evaluation report is and will be completed in the spring 2022. So with that, I just want to thank the authority staff. Ford Ritz has been a great project manager to work with, and also Mike Coates, Richard Anderson, and Terry Holcomb. And in addition, thank you to your members, the customers, and also the partners, their staff, and understanding the needs of your communities has been great. And thank you for providing us the opportunity to work on this important project.
Okay, I have something, but first, any other commissioners? No. Doug, or Heather, just go back to the Sarasota County slide. Okay, there it is.
Yes, sir.
Where River Road, at that point in Sarasota County, as you know, I-75 runs due east and west, and River Road runs effectively north and south. When you get to the northeast quadrant of River Road and I-75, there's a closed down rest area, been closed for a long, long time. And FDOT had always held out that they wanted nothing to happen there because it's a hurricane staging area. Heaven forbid we have a disaster. That's where all the debris would be taken momentarily. They've loosened up a little bit on that. Is that any value whatsoever in the pipeline?
Well, certainly, and there's value in every option that we have in finding space, and it's probably a bit north for a good location for a booster pumping and storage facility, but possibly it is a good location. We haven't completed our analysis of the hydraulics at this point. But all options are valuable, in looking at it. So,
Well, and I just, not that I'm even thinking that you overlooked anything, but that was closed down to all of us in the past. But now that has loosened up a bit, so.
well, we definitely will make note of that and
Okay.
keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, very, very good. And again, that was just the status report. We're going to move on to 3C, Regional Integrated Loop System Phase 3C, Feasibility and Routing Study. Richard Anderson and Tom Wilson from Wade Trim.
There we go. Good morning again, Mr. Chair, board members. The last update, but certainly not the least, we have for you today is the feasibility and routing study for the 3C pipeline project. This study's on the same track as Mr. Ritz mentioned for the 2B2C project. It is budgeted and funded through our planning assessment. The total cost for this project was just under $600,000, with 50% of that being funded by the Water Management District, almost $300,000 being funded by the district. It was awarded to Wade Trim Incorporated at our December 2020 board meeting, and it also has a completion date of April of 2022. The agenda for our presentation, I'm going to provide a quick project background. Then the Wade Trim staff will provide a project scope, project status, and then look at our next steps. For the project background, this graphic shows a basic overview of our current and future regional pipeline system. The navy, or they might appear black lines on the graphic, represent our regional transmission lines that are currently in service. The red lines show the proposed or future pipelines. You can see to the south, here's the 2B, 2C line that Ford mentioned. That's all about getting water from Peace River to the Carlton plant. The Phase 3 pipeline begins at the Carlton plant and moves north to Manatee County. That's all about getting water from Carlton to the north. As you zoom in on that graphic, as you can see here, parts of the Phase 3 line are already in service. This is not a new project. We've been slowly marching north for almost 10 years. As you can see, the Phase 3A pipeline, which starts here, if you can see my pointer, starts at the Carlton facility and runs to Knights Trail Road just south of the landfill there, the county landfill right on Knights Trail Road. That was installed in early 2012. The 3B pipeline runs from that location just south of the landfill north to Clark Road just by the National Cemetery. That segment was completed this spring. The county is currently installing a 30-inch transmission main from the north terminus of that point on Clark Road to their pump station over here on Proctor Road, just west of the interstate. So the last segment, the Phase 3C line, which is what we're talking about today, will run from Clark Road north to Manatee County, along University Avenue and potentially connecting to Sarasota County's University Pump Station near Lockwood Ridge. Once complete, this will create a true regional transmission network connecting the Peace River facility with Manatee County's system. Now, although Manatee County has indicated they won't need to purchase water from the authority for about 15 years, connecting the two largest water treatment plants in the region has tremendous benefits. From an emergency supply standpoint, Manatee is the only plant big enough in the region to back up Peace River, and vice versa. Peace River is the only facility big enough to back up Manatee should they have an emergency. So the ability to exchange water on a regular basis, to handle scheduled plant outages, as Commissioner Mayo mentioned, handle unforeseen events like pipe breaks and hurricanes or natural disasters, it just provides a tremendous benefit to the entire region. So lastly, the other issue with this project, and Wade Trim will talk about it as well, is this is a fast-growing corridor. If you've driven from State Road 64 down to Clark Road, you know that it's nothing but a giant construction zone up there. And property acquisitions and easements are hard to come by, they're at a premium, and they're only going to get harder to find. So a key component of this project is also to identify those corridors and find routes that we can identify now to make use of. So with that, I'd like to introduce Tom Wilson of Wade Trim. He's going to cover the rest of the presentation. So, Tom?
Thank you, Rick. Morning, Board and Chairman. I'm Tom Wilson with Wade Trim, your project manager for the Phase 3C feasibility and routing study. Give you a little bit of a status here. Whoops. Just a couple of significant portions of our scope. We are to identify and update water demands and delivery points for your stakeholders, to hold meetings with these stakeholders, and we have done all but a couple of those meetings. We have one coming up with High Hat Ranch. We have completed our stakeholder meetings with Sarasota and Manatee County, very productive meetings. Eventually, we will shortlist 3 routes, which will be evaluated and compared in detail. And we're going to use the regional hydraulic model to quantify the pipe size and pumping facilities. We may be looking at storage and pump stations along with this pipeline. We have developed weighting criteria to compare these in collaboration with Kimley Horn. We have basically the same weighting criteria, but different weighting, the same criteria. And then, of course, we will eventually prepare a cost estimate for our shortlisted routes. And then we'll prepare the final report and present that back to the board. Our current status, we have developed a detailed schedule for our work here. We have a contract milestone of April 2022. We're targeting a little bit of an early completion in perhaps February of 2022. Some of the significant milestones in there is to complete our stakeholder meetings. That's by the middle of June, and we're on track to do that. And then to hold a route evaluation workshop where we'll collaborate with your staff to identify the 3 routes that we're going to carry into greater detail. A draft report review meeting near Thanksgiving. We'll submit that final report in January of next year and present to the board in the spring of 2022. Talk about our project area for a little bit. It kind of starts at the connection to your existing Phase 3B pipe. That's on Clark Road east of the interstate, down in the lower right-hand corner. Our route will have to cross I-75. You can see Fruitville Road kind of crosses right through our project area, just like the interstate does. And then University Parkway Booster Pump Station is along University, which is the boundary between Manatee County and Sarasota County. And they have about 4 interconnections where those two stakeholders can share resources. So the work that we're doing right now, we're still in the development phase of identifying all the potential routes. Here's a figure showing a whole bunch of those routes, and I'll just talk about 1 or 2 for a little bit. Here's our connection down here on Clark Road near the National Cemetery, right next to Cowpen Slough. This cyan blue route up here follows the Florida Power and Light Corridor and eventually gets us to the intersection of Fruitville and Lorraine Road. We've also looking at one that follows Cowpen Slough up to that same area, and then we have a route that goes on Clark over to the Bee Ridge Extension and up Lorraine Road again into that same area. That area has been identified in our meetings with Sarasota County as a targeted area for their pump station to serve some of the anticipated growth. Everything to the right of this red route over here is, proposed Hi-Hat Ranch and other developments in there. And there will be a lot of future growth, but this is also a good site for them to kind of backfeed the rest of the system. So many of our routes do cross through that area. I will point out one other. We're looking at a possibility of being on Palmer Ranch Road. It does have an advantageous cross of the interstate where we would not have to have a microtunnel. That's an overpass, so it could be put in a little more efficiently. Some of our next steps. We need to narrow down these alternatives and conduct the workshop I mentioned. Then we get into real details and metrics on the routes. We'll be quantifying everything from lengths to special crossings to environmental impacts. And then we'll also prepare cost estimates for all of those. We're modeling those alternatives using your regional model to confirm pipe sizes and deliveries, pressures and demands, and whether we need any storage or pumping. Then we'll develop a technical memorandum and a workshop with your staff and present that to the board in early 2022. So that's all I have today. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions.
Any questions? I don't see any, but I just, again, I'm sure you considered everything, but a fairly very new development is Lorraine Road, as you know. And the 5 property owners in Sarasota County have now come up with the alignment, and Lorraine Road travels through Manatee County, continues south to Fruitville. Well, it will travel all the way to Knight's Trail. So just when you come up with routing or this or in the future or 5 years from now, that corridor will be an eventual 4-lane major arterial with a pretty substantial, generous right-of-way for other things, because that is also ground zero for where all those 5 big landowners are going to be developing. So just, yes, sir. Anything else? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. We are on item number 4. Interlocal agreement with Sarasota County for authority acquisition of Phase 3C Interconnect Pump Station property. Deputy Director Mike Coates is going to do the presentation, and board members, this is going to require a recommended action, a motion, and I think the motion needs to be put into the record as outlined here on your agenda. Mike, how are you today?
Just fine, Mr. Chair, board members, Mike Coates of your staff. This, as the chairman indicated, is the interlocal agreement with Sarasota County for the authority acquisition of the Phase 3C Interconnect Pump Station property. And Richard and Tom set this up pretty well. What we're looking at here is in this map, of course, this area right here in the future regional system. And this area here is Lorraine Road coming down, and this is Fruitville Road. This is an area that is rapidly developing, and as you saw in the last presentation, pretty much all of the pipeline routes that have been identified for Phase 3C come right through here. So we will have a need for a regional pump station at this location, and Sarasota County also has a need for at least a master lift station at this location and possibly a pump station for themselves. So in coordination with the county has asked us to go ahead and purchase a piece of property in this general location, nothing specific, but in this general area. And that's what the interlocal agreement that we have on the agenda is all about. We would coordinate on site identification and requirements with county staff. We would share the site for regional and Sarasota County infrastructure. The authority will lead in the acquisition of this. We'll go out there, we'll study the locations. We will actually do the acquisition of the property, and the county will pay all the costs for that. They'll pay for the property, they'll pay for any engineering studies we have. All of that's included in the interlocal agreement. We'll retain ownership of the property, and then we will provide easements to the county for whatever they need on that property. It's an expeditious way to get something that we need and they need in a rapidly developing area, and it's pretty important to do that, as Richard and Tom indicated. This area is just bursting at the seams. So lest we have to go and bulldoze a 7-Eleven store in the future for our pump station, and we should do this now. So the staff recommendation here is shown to approve the interlocal agreement between the Peace River Minnesota Regional Water Supply Authority and Sarasota County for a future pump station site for the Phase 3C Regional Interconnect, and authorize the Executive Director and the General Counsel to approve any minor changes to the agreement associated with subsequent Sarasota County BOCC action. We expect Sarasota County BOCC action on this item in probably early July. If there are any Scrivener's errors or any small changes to the agreement, we want to be able to make those without having to come back to the board. If there are any substantive changes, of course, we would come back to the board for those. So with that, you see the staff recommendation, Mr. Chair, and I'd take any questions if you have them.
Questions for Mike? I see none. With that, thank you, Mike. That was a great summary. We're on item number 4. The chair will entertain a motion as suggested.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Langford, seconded by Commissioner Truex. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor on item number 4, a motion to approve as outlined in our packet and on the screen, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Chair votes aye. Item number 4 moves forward with a 4-0 motion of approval. Does anyone need a break at this point? I see none. Okay, we're going to be moving on to item number 5, the legislative session review and wrap-up, and Laura Donaldson of the Manson, Bowles, Donaldson, and Varn law firm is going to help us with that. Thank you.
Good morning. How are you today? So I'm Laura Donaldson. I'm a partner of Doug's at Manson, Bowles, Donaldson, and Varn. In your packet should be a one-page summary of the legislative priorities that the authority approved in December, as well as a substantial analysis of some of the bills that I tracked this session for the authority. So before I even start with that, I guess I should say, in case you haven't heard, the Secretary of DEP submitted his resignation letter last week, and he will be leaving this Friday. And the interim DEP secretary is Sean Hamilton, who's been at the DEP for 13 years. So there'll be a big change. Noah has been there under Governor Scott and now under Governor DeSantis. And we we will see who ends up ultimately becoming the DEP secretary, because that will have to be confirmed both by the legislature as well as by the cabinet. So I'll go real quickly through the legislative priorities, and then there's a couple things that have popped up very recently that you might find of interest. So session did start on time. It was very interesting. We had no major COVID outbreaks. We had COVID protocols going into the legislature. You couldn't go into the Senate. You could go into the House if literally someone came and got you and took you up to their office. So there were a lot of meetings outside of the Capitol. So a lot of business occurred. It just may not have been when you met in person. I know some people came up during session. Only 275 bills of the over 3,000 bills that were filed passed. That seems low, but that's actually more bills passed this year than last year. We don't really know. And there was a great workmanship between the House and the Senate. Sometimes we don't get that. So it was very great to see. The other thing, a lot of bills have not been signed yet, in part because the second to the last week of session, the governor signed a compact with Seminole Tribe. And so once session ended, all focus was on getting that gaming compact and the legislation passed. And so they had that special session 2 weeks ago. So we're starting to see bills go. So real quickly, great news. In December, when I came before you, I said that there was going to be a $2 billion estimated deficit for the budget because of federal funding. The state of Florida got $10 billion. And so it went from like every project was going to be slashed. We were being told don't file any appropriations projects. I know Pat and I had conversations. I'm like, there's no money. To, oh, we have tons of money. What are we going to do with it? Let's talk about all the projects being funded. And so it made the budget process very different this year. And it all came, because $10 billion, is a lot of money. And so great news, the authority's budget request did get fully appropriated, $200,000. And the budget was submitted to the governor yesterday. So we will know by the 16th of June, if not before then, whether or not the governor has line item veto, whether or not we will get that funding. In addition, what the legislature did, which was very clever with the $10 billion, is they appropriated the $10 billion, but said none of those things get funded until we get the $10 billion. And so under that $10 billion is $40 million for alternative water supply. And that was one of the priorities of the authorities, to get more alternative water supply funding. That money will go to DEP, and then with insight and recommendations from the Water Management District, there are ways to get money that way. And then in addition, I'm just going through my notes really quickly. The potable reuse legislation, that was one of the priorities of President Simpson. And Senate Bill 64 did pass. It recommends and recognizes that potable reuse is a source of drinking water supply. It also prohibits the surface water discharge of reclaimed water by 2032. This was something that was very important to the Senate President, because 800 million gallons a day of reclaimed water is just being discharged. And as he once told me, that's an awfully large water use permit. And so when that is a big priority. That bill has not been sent to the governor yet. In addition, PFAS legislation, it was filed both in the House and the Senate, did not pass, in part because the Senate legislation included liability from lawsuits. So if a local government worked with DEP to come up with a restoration plan, they would be free from liability. And so I raised the question, well, what if it's a local, like one local government who's next to another local government, and your water supply is impacted because of what this local government does? Now, we're going to have to come up with the money to fix it, and I can't sue the other local government. So there's a lot of questions regarding that. Legislation will be back next year. I don't believe with the liability limitation, because it was just very controversial. What was really driving that is that DEP has sent some pre-compliance letters to local government saying, hey, you've got PFAS in some of your wells, you have to restore it. Even though, oh, who cares? We don't actually have adopted levels in Florida. And so that was driving that, to force DEP to implement and adopt PFAS levels. Oh, I did forget to mention, related to ASR, that's one of the priorities. There was no regular ASR legislation. It was all related to reclaimed water ASR legislation. For your interest, I know it's not legislative, but DEP is doing 2 phases of reuse rulemaking. The first phase is done. The second phase is going on right now. In fact, there is a workshop that started 55 minutes ago on the phase 2, and there's a lot of changes to ASR. So it's something that we're continuing to monitor. Related to the CFWI rule ratification, the CFWI rules were ratified. It was interesting because a lawsuit had been filed. 14 different local governments and developers challenged the CFWI rules, and there were many interveners, and the legislature still filed the bill. So as this bill is being moved in the process, there's literally administrative litigation going on. Ultimately, everything was resolved and the bill did pass, so those CFWI rules will go into effect. From the authority standpoint, the reason why that's impactful is 2 things. One, many of the rules, I believe, will be adopted statewide. You have a definition of harm that's in a major part of the state that should be adopted statewide. The other is right now we will have different ways MFLs are adopted. So CFWI has a process on how an MFL is adopted, and the rest of what we're in, SwiftMud, has a rule. And why is that important? Because the Peace River is in both CFWI and outside of CFWI. So it'll be interesting to see how those rules interplay. In addition, the governing board members that were up for confirmation were approved, so that was great. So that SwiftMud can approve the budget. That includes the authority's funding, so that's great news because we've had some issues with that in the past. And in addition, in a bill dealing with public works, I'll just mention because it's kind of buried. Every year there's a legislative group that does a water resource assessment, and the legislation has not been signed yet, is going to require this, it's called EDR, to include an analysis of expenditures to repair, replace, and expand water-related infrastructure. So we don't know what that's going to look like. It will be very interesting. Potentially, the authority will be asked to, today was great because we got a lot of cost. The third reservoir, I mean, those are things that hopefully that we can get included because I believe eventually this assessment is going to be used to fund projects in the state of Florida. So that's something that we should be watching. Outside of the legislature, just really quickly, because I think I have a few minutes left. At your chair is the Local Government Efficiency Task Force report. This was a group that was created last year in the budget implementation bill. Very painful meetings, like 3-hour meetings on Zoom. Was at one point they talked about let's look at all special districts and what are the value of special districts, and then it was, well, let's just look at fire districts. Let's get rid of this type of district. Let's get rid of that type of district. Why do we need all these districts? And eventually, as you will see, it came down to only a very few recommendations. One of those is dealing with legal notices, which the legislature did pass a law to kind of help with noticing online. The other was recognition that the law needs to change to let, in an emergency, local governments meet virtually. This was a big issue. It had to be included as part of an executive order during COVID. So that's something that this task force has recommended. It was something we were monitoring. At one point, the virtual meetings was only for counties and cities. And luckily, I represent a lot of special districts and just said, hey, can we include special districts? Because we have the same issues that counties and cities have. If it's a crisis, an emergency, we need to be able to meet virtually. In addition, one of the things that we have been monitoring is the state 404 assumption. And after our meeting in December, where we were wondering what was going to happen with the Biden administration, it did get approved. So Florida, it has been delegated to Florida. We're the 3rd state in the country to receive it. There has been litigation filed. and that's moving through the process. In addition, in the budget, there's, it's a lot to take on a federal program. And so in the budget, there are 17 new staff positions to help with the 404 delegation. Because we're, when you transfer a huge program, there's going to be delays. And so this will help. In addition, I know at the last meeting, Mr. Chair, you asked about WOTUS. And so I know that's not on the front of the list, sorry, I write lots of notes. So Colorado had challenged it, we had talked about that at the December meeting. In March, the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals reversed the injunction. So WOTUS is now, the Trump WOTUS rule is in effect everywhere. Colorado was the one state. There's other litigation that's going on. And Biden has directed EPA to review Trump's WOTUS rule. So what we've been hearing is it might be a mixture between Obama's rule and Trump's rule. So it might be, maybe, it's like with the porridge, this one's too hot, this one's too cold, this one's this. So maybe we'll get a right one, because I think it's unfortunate that WOTUS has become a political decision and not based in science, and it's whoever is in charge. Finally, my last thing is there are 2 constitutional amendment petitions that were approved May 20th, and I just want to bring it to your attention. One, in part because we heard about the reservoir and the mitigation. There is an amendment that would prohibit the degradation, dredging, and filling of wetlands in Florida. So that was approved on the 20th. And the other is rights of nature, which basically means the authority could not pull any water off the river. That got approved on May 20th as well. And basically what they're trying to do is what Orange County did. And what happened in Orange County is they're actually, some environmental groups were targeting charter counties to basically give rights to nature so that someone could sue instead of like a river. So as a river, I am free to be left alone and no one can mess with me. So if I wanted to go fishing and grab a fish, I could be sued because I'm impacting the river. Water withdrawals, discharges, just think about it. And so they targeted charter counties. In Orange County, they were successful. The residents approved it. And so it's in their charter, but the legislature in the interim had approved legislation that said it's preempted to the state. You can't give rights to nature. So now an environmental group has filed a constitutional amendment where they need to get the correct signatures to allow local governments to protect with more restrictions and allow people to sue on behalf of a water body to be left free of interference. So that's not on your list. It's just something that came up in the last couple of weeks. And I thought you might want, I try to give you more interesting details because you obviously can read what I submitted, but just kind of interesting facts that are going along with what's on paper.
And they still have to get the signatures? Is that what you said?
They do. They
And
just got approved, Mr. Chair, what the language states.
Okay. Any questions? Now that the end of her presentation left us somewhat wide-eyed, thank you very, very much.
That was not my intent, Mr. Chair, but I just wanted to.
No, you got to deliver the news. Keep us posted on that, please.
And that's been coming. That's been coming. It's not just water bodies, it's plants, it's animals, it's skinks, it's whatever.
Yeah, it started up north, and it's been going through the process. And like I said, the environmental groups targeted charter counties. And then when the legislature stepped in, and it is, I know in Charlotte County, there was a focus with the Caloosahatchee and Lee County, and it's an important thing that's coming. And it would be on the ballot if they get the correct numbers in 2022. But I will continue to monitor.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Not perfect, but thank you. Okay, we're on the next item on our agenda is the tentative budget for FY 2022. Proposed budget for FY 2022 called the Investment in Water Security. Mr. Lehman, our Executive Director, is going to take us through this and the next one, but we'll concentrate on this one. And this will have a motion, will require a motion. Mr. Lehman.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. It's my responsibility and privilege as Executive Director, at least for a wee bit more, to present to you today the proposed budget for FY 2022, and we call that the Investment in Our Water Security. Certainly want to give all the thanks to your staff, Mr. Coates, Ms. Lee, Mr. Anderson, Ms. Holcomb, who put all this together and representing all facets of the authority to make sure that it represents the vision statement and mission of the authority and implements the strategic plan that this board approved earlier. Certainly not just next year's budget, but looking forward to the challenges ahead that we have water security well into the future. Certainly we have a lot of documents we have to go by, federal documents, state statutes, the interlocal agreement that creates this authority, the master water supply contract, resolutions, budget policies that this board has adapted over time, and yes, the revenue bonds, especially, and most recent, the 2020 bonds and the covenants that we cover. Also, and making sure we maintain a financial rating, which I'm glad to see is in the AA category by all three rating agencies. Just to bring it up to the speed on the calendar, we had the discussion at the last board meeting. The staff took that discussion to implement into the proposed budget. Today we present the proposed budget. The budget was put together and has been vetted by our staff through your utility staff with all questions answered and comments received. Upon adoptance of a tentative budget today, there will be a public hearing at the next board meeting in August. All information is presented on our website for full access by the public and any agency that would like to review not only the proposed budget, but the data behind it. Certainly, we're contractually obligated to make sure we meet the contractual obligation of 34.7 MGD. And as you saw from Richard, that actual demands keep climbing. We've budgeted for 32 MGD for the upcoming fiscal year. It's incumbent upon staff to make sure that we're efficient and cost-effective operations and that we make appropriate investment, not only to maintain infrastructure, to make sure that we extend the service life well into the future. We look at long-term water demands and the needs for infrastructure, as you saw prior with the approval of the CIP under consent, and also look at the feasibility and schedule for new projects, and certainly maintaining financial stability and bond rating throughout. Our goal to maintain reasonable water rates, not only year by year for next fiscal year, but in the long term over the next 20 years. We have retained Stantec as our rate consultant, which maintains a model, and Ms. Lee keeps strict tabs on how the expenses, CIP, and how those numbers will affect rates into the future, so that at no time there's rate shock and affordable water to all. Looking at the budget highlights, consistent with what our discussion was at the last board meeting, the rates are consistent with the increased water demands. You saw Richard's presentation. Water demands have been a little over 2% annually over the last 10 years. The member fees, we have a small increase in the annual charge that's being proposed. And the planning assessment, looking at the planning for feasibility studies, which the board tackled last year. It's setting up a program for funding. It remains the same as last year with no increases. O&M expenditures are projected to be fairly stable, reflecting inflationary impacts for supply and professional services, and also the continuing increase in demand by our customers. Personnel compensation, as we provided in the last board meeting, is budgeted at a 4% increase. With 2 new positions, we have 52 existing positions. This would be 2 new positions. One specific to water quality. We have a full lab, and water quality is obviously always a concern and incumbent that we provide a safe water supply to everyone. Also, the outreach and grants coordinator, as we saw before with the feasibility study, there are big dollars that lie ahead in construction, and certainly we aim to make sure that we get the appropriate grants available. Other rate-related expenditures, the contribution R&R, we had a sufficiency study done 2 years ago. This board had the discussion last year and also at our last board meeting to increase the R&R reserve contribution in accordance with that sufficiency study. Contribution to the disaster recovery reserve to achieve board policy. This board approved a policy last year for that, for hurricanes and other natural disasters that may be, that we would have the funds available to make sure we maintain service. Matching funds for the ongoing SwiftMud Cooperative Funding Initiative projects that we just went through with the feasibility projects that are underway that will lead to construction projects into the future, but also new projects. The matching funds of SwiftMud for cooperative funding for the reservoir number 3 preliminary design and permitting. As we saw before with the presentation on the project, that, and as I stated, SwiftMud did it last week approve cooperative funding to move forward with that project for the next 3 years in the design phase. Also, the Project Prairie acquisition, which this board talked about before and authorized staff to submit for cooperative funding. There again, SwiftMud Governing Board did approve that funding project at their board meeting last week. So looking, what does that mean as an increase to the budget itself? The R&R contribution would go up $1 million. Disaster recovery contribution would go up by $200,000 over the current year. That would bring that reserve fund up to full board goal by policy. The management and planning projects, as I said before, would remain unchanged with the same contribution with no change as the existing budget. And the new projects that we would propose matching the SwiftMud funding of $1.1 million for continuation of the design, preliminary design of the reservoir. That preliminary design will get us to the facts information that this board needs, our customers need, to make the further participation options when we get to that point. And as I said before, the Project Prairie is the purchase of an existing tank on our pipelines that would purchase would be from DeSoto County because it is now in a hub where it can become a relay station within the authority project now that we have completion of the pipeline to Punta Gorda. The debt reallocation, there are some big changes coming. The capital component for the 91 acquisition of the original facility, it's paid off. Come September 30th, you have the pleasure of burning the mortgage. So that debt service is paid off. We keep our bonds at levelized debt, so there's some readjustment of the existing bonds that goes up some, but gladly to say that the 2020 refinancing helped soften that increase. That was all anticipated and approved by this board, your county commissions, and when those bonds were issued as to how those participations would be reallocated over time. So but on the bright side, there's also some additional funds that can be rebated back to our customers. The debt service coverage payment that is paid by our customers during this current year to the tune of about $1.3 million staff would propose, and as has been in the past, rebated back to our customers. The 2020 series bonds, which actually that should say FY 2021, that we're collecting water rates based on the prior bonds. So the 2020 bonds offered tremendous savings of almost $1.4 million to this authority. It's your money, it's been collected, but staff proposes that money be rebated back to the customers that participated that. So how can those funds be dispersed? We would see 3 options, and it would be at the option of each respective customer. You don't all have to do the same thing. It would be a direct rebate back to the customer. We'd stroke you a check come October 1st. It can be credit to your monthly water invoice, so each month your invoice would have a credit to it, or those funds can be deposited within the authority CIP to the customer's project savings account. That would be to your future benefit. The timing on that, there's no rush to give an answer to the authority, but in September, we would have to have each customer tell us which option they want so that come October 1st, it can be implemented. The authority, just like your utilities, is an enterprise fund based on water rates, not at ad valorem taxes. We have two areas, the administrative office and Lakewood Ranch, which handles the overall administration of the authority, and certainly the facilities, which is the water supply, pipelines, engineering, the true bulk. Looking at how the budget's proposed compared to the current budget, you can see the slight increase in administrative office by $18,000. The bigger increases in the facilities of $3.4 million, and we'll show where that comes from in just a moment. You can see here how the historical budget is. The beige being the O&M with a increase over the last 5 years, pretty much reflecting the inflation of supply cost. And then the blue, you can see that it's fairly constant over the last 2 years. There's been increases. That is the R&R, investment in the current infrastructure and extending the service life of it. The green has been the CIPs. You can see the two bulk years in 2019 and 2020, which was the bulk of the pipeline expansions. But continue on in the green with the feasibility studies and the reservoir. The expenditures that are proposed, $54.7 million. You can see the major portion is O&M cost, a little over $22 million. I will tell you that half of that $22 million is chemicals and electric power. So that makes up 50% of our O&M cost. The debt service, you can see there with the bonds, the projects, which are continuing on, inclusive of the R&R and the CIP projects. County payments, this is our payment to DeSoto County. You can see it in the past, that used to be a lot bigger because we used to have the payment to Charlotte for the 91, but that has now disappeared. The disbursements, as I noted before, could be the rebates to our customers at 2.7, and other costs of $8.6 million, which consists of our contribution to R&R, transfer to CIP, the debt service coverage, and our reserve funding. Where does that money come from? As I said before, we're an enterprise fund. The bulk of that comes from water sales, directly from the customers. So it's basically user pay. You can see the CIP fund transfers, grants, which we always appreciate, coming from SwiftMud. The other costs, which includes the reserve funds, which is programmed transfers from reserve, most of that being from the R&R, and also some from the rate stabilization reserve. The carry forward, which inclusive of funds unspent, the savings from the 2020 bonds, and also our debt coverage costs, collections which carry forward. We have our water rate components, just like your utilities charge your customers. We have the base rate, which is divided up by allocation by the water supply contract, and the water use rate, which is charged for actual delivered to each customer on a monthly basis per 1,000 gallons actually used. The base rate charge, we don't necessarily have a common rate throughout because the debt service of water supply is proportioned out by the debt to the respective customers that participate in each project. Same with the debt service on pipelines. Those costs are allocated out proportionate to each participating customer. The fixed O&M costs are a unitary rate. That is pro rata to your water allocations in the water supply contract. And here you can see the water allocations and the water supply contract, that Charlotte County, Sarasota are fairly much equal partners, with DeSoto having a small proportion Northport participation. Looking at the historical base rate charge, you can see that over the last 5 years, there again, the base rate charge charged to our customers is increased on the 2 to 3% increase, pretty consistent with what the water demand has been increasing. The actual historical water use charge, our rate consultant looking at the cost of chemicals, power, which makes up the primary components of the water use charge, recommends an increase of 3 cents from 79 cents to 82 cents per 1,000 gallons charged to our customers. Looking at the typical home user in the area at 4,000 gallons per month, that would equate to 12 cents per month per household for a reliable and safe water supply. So how does that impact you individually as our member counties and respective customers? Charlotte County, you're seeing the red. That means you are actually getting a deduct in your water rate. How can that happen? Because the 91 debt service is paid off and you are the primary payer for that. DeSoto County, because your participation and readjustment of bond cost is going up by $47,000. Manatee, you're not, there's been no change to your costs. Those costs that you pay are components of the system-wide CIP projects. Sarasota County, because you're a heavy investor in the newer water supplies and pipelines and participation in bond costs, that your rate has gone up, would go up by over $1.7 million. Northport, similar to Charlotte County, by being participant in the 91 acquisition, is seeing the red and the cost going down. As I said, the user charge would go up by 3 cents, and that's across the board to all users. But there's light at the end of the tunnel. That yes, you saw some big increases, Sarasota County, DeSoto County, but now let's look for a minute at the disbursements and rebates that are being made available to the customers if the board adopts this. Charlotte County, not only would you get a reduction in your rate, you would also get a $330,000 rebate check or credit. DeSoto County, there you can see, would get $37,000. Sarasota County and Northport, by being the primary participants in the 2020 bond refinancing, would get a tremendous rebate back. You can see that Sarasota over 1.7 million and Northport 0.6. So the rebates actually outweigh the increase in the water rate. And there again, the option of how each customer wants that rebate, we would have to hear back by September, and Ms. Lee will coordinate with all your staffs and the appropriate decision by each customer. The member fee, fairly consistent increase. It's approximately about a 5% cost increase to each customer. The member fee, by policy, is established. 50% of the cost is spread equally between the 4 counties. 50% is based on populations. So that's how we develop that formula as far as the member fee. Looking at the planning and management projects, you can see the list of those at 625, primarily mimicking what's in the current budget. We do have one line item for the master water supply modifications that you'll hear from Mr. Manson to dust that off and have everybody take a good look at it. So the planning and management assessment is strictly by population. So, and these are populations put up by Beeper April 1st of each year. So you can see there's a little up and down adjustment as far as contributions. That's by populations. You can see where Northport, being the fastest growing city in the state, especially with Welland Park, that is the reason why theirs went up and others readjusted. So in conclusion, that the tentative, this proposed budget is presented for your consideration, and if adoption as a tentative budget. As I said before, once that tentative budget is approved, it will start, all information will be posted on our website and available to all members, agencies, and the public, and we'll come back for final adoption at a public hearing at your next board meeting, August 4th. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're available for any questions or discussion you may have.
Do we have any questions for Pat? Okay, we'll need a motion on this one. We're on item number 1 under the tentative budget for FY 2022.
Mr. Chairman, motion to approve tentative budget for fiscal year 2022 in the amount of $54,689,278.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We're on item number 1. Motion by Commissioner Langford, second by Commissioner Truex. Anyone have any discussion on this? I would just very briefly say a lot of kudos go to you and your staff, and again, the consultant team, on the extremely technically competent presentations that get made to SwiftMud. We sat through those in your office, and we have great success because of the quality of the input. That's number 1. Number 2, when I was on the blood bank board, all I kept hearing was, you take the blood from people. Why does it cost so much? Well, I hear it again. The water falls from the sky, or you take it out of the river. But as the guy who has signed checks for 6 years with you, Pat, they have no idea the cost of the chemicals, the cost of the FP&L bills, and what it takes to run it. And again, just great compliments, and also compliments to your staff, all of them, on the recasting of 3 of the 4 bonds when the call times of 10 years were up, with no change in the final date of the bonds. And I think it was something to the members, something like over the next 20 years, a $16 million savings in interest. So just a great job for last year. And with that, we'll call a question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Chair votes aye. Item number 1 under the budget passes unanimously, 4-0. Pat, you're up for item number 2, Resolution 2021-08, resolution setting forth preliminary schedule of rates, fees, and charges for FY 2022, and this is also going to take a motion.
Yes. Mr. Chairman, the proposed resolution codifies the rates, fees, and charges that you just adopted within the budget, and they are tentative, which will come back again after the hearing October 4th.
Okay.
August 4th.
Commissioner Truex.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I move to approve Resolution 2021-08, resolution setting forth preliminary schedules of rates, fees, and charges for fiscal year 2022.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Truex, a second by Commissioner Langford. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The chair votes aye. Item number 2 under the tentative budget for FY 2022 moves forward unanimously with an approval, 4-0. Next, unless someone needs a break, we have General Counsel's report.
All right, I'm up. So what we're going to talk about today is an update on the master water supply contract. We're amending the contract. Obviously, it's 16 years old, and there are many portions of it that substantively may be looked at, but non-substantive changes are what I'm amending first. So we're looking at non-substantive changes are things that are discussed in the master water supply contract that no longer apply. Projects that are already completed, deadlines or dates that off the wall in the past, things of that nature. We'll all be generating a. Your microphone's not on, please. Thank you.
Start over.
All right. So we're going to be amending the master water supply contract, and I'm generating a draft now after we've had a number of meetings with staff to go over it, to update it. And those will be non-substantive amendments. And then separate from that, I'm doing an outline of conceptual items in the master water supply contract that we need to discuss. And that will be for the workshop that we're going to hold on August for the board. Both the outline and the non-substantive revised amended agreement will be released into both the board members, of course, and to member staffs. And I know Charlotte County that Jean's been looking for it, so I'll get a copy to her as well. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to do it. I also have an announcement that Laura updated me during the proceeding that the governor has approved the budget, so the Peace River funding is authorized and approved. So we're good to go. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to address those. Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you, Mr. Manson. No motion there, no motion on the next one, which is the executive director's report.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the gatekeeper to my right notified me that we failed to approve the motion for the centennial resolution for Sarasota County, so you'll need to give it back.
I
for
move approval. I was going to bring that up, but. I motion to approve, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Truex, second by Commissioner Langford.
Can we go into debate on this issue?
I think we should, because the chairman, since it's his home county, did an extremely poor job on that one. And I'm sure it will be weeks before I live that down.
Well, based on the fact that it's already left the building, I think we have to approve it.
We have to.
To
Good.
save face,
Thank
so,
goodness for that. Okay, we'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And that includes me, so that's 4-0. Thank you very much, fellas. Anything else to embarrass me with, Pat? No, but not fair.
Can we go back to the $5,000 for the pictures? I want to know what kind of pictures they have on you.
Now you're looking at a very boring guy, unfortunately. Okay, we're on Chairman's report, and this is going to take board action, so bear with me. We have some things to discuss here. First of all, Pat is not getting out of here immediately, and he's not getting out of here without some comments about him and his deputy director. So first of all, just to talk a little bit about the history here, the authority has been involved in some major expansions of our supply and transmission system to meet regional needs. That's, again, the water falls out of the sky and it's free, but not really. We just finished 11 miles of new regional transmission pipelines, one to Punta Gorda and one extending the regional system north in Sarasota County, closer and closer to the connection with Manatee County. We did receive, as you all are aware, a 50-year water use permit to support expansion at the Peace River facility. That work has started, and we just had an update on building our third reservoir, somewhere between 6 and 9 billion gallons. And I think our folks and consultants have been asked to make it as large as is practicable and possible. We also had an update on works starting on two major pipeline projects, including a new connection with Manatee and a second loop to the Carlton Water Treatment Plant, which has just been, I think it was about $50 million, completely refurbished. The authority has been successful in obtaining major funding for our regional projects through partnerships with SwiftMud and the state, and we just got a late-breaking note about that. The authority also has routinely identified a model for cooperation and successful water supply planning and development in the state, and we know, and it's often spoken about out of our hearing, that we really are a model in that. These successes are a team effort, the board, but I will say it is the executive management team and the staff at the authority. Continuity is important to our continued success. We are fortunate to have a great amount of talent and experience in the authority staff to move these programs along. Pat is retiring this summer after 30 years with this authority, 25 of them as the executive director. Succession planning is a strategy for passing on leadership role. In my former life, you couldn't get promoted unless you had laid out in writing a succession plan. While there is no replacing Pat, and I do want to repeat that, there's no replacing you, buddy. There is an existing succession plan at the authority. Our deputy director, Mike Coates, has been with the authority for 15 years, hired in 2006 as a water resources director, and in 2012 promoted to deputy director, which is our version of a chief operating officer. I have seen him over the last many years, and I'm up in the Peace River offices once or twice a week for the last 6.5 years. In addition to directing staff and the day-to-day work of providing all of everyone excellent quality drinking water, Mike was involved in the last regional expansion, including our existing 6 billion gallon reservoir and 24 million gallon per day water treatment plant expansion completed in 2009. He directed the successful efforts on installing 46 miles of regional transition pipeline, obtaining our 50-year water use permit, starting the next phase of the expansion at the Peace River facility, including a third reservoir that will make our supply available by 2030, and pushing the start of another 45 miles of large diameter regional pipelines to support this region. So the authority has invested 15 years, and Mike has invested in us as a successor to Pat. His bio is available. I'm not going to read the bio into the record. Mike is probably embarrassed enough that I'm talking as much as I am. But I'm going to propose to this board that we continue with the successful program we have now and offer the position of executive director to Mike Coates, with a contract to be negotiated by the chairman and brought back to the board on August 4th. I think we should have some discussion about this, followed by a motion, if you all agree.
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. You know, one of the things, being a business owner and also being involved in county government for the last 8.5 years, the continuity and transition that can take place when you have talent within an organization is extremely beneficial to success and the ongoing success of an organization. I've watched this authority over the last 8.5 years. I'm new to the board, basically, but I'm not new to what's been going on here. We have very good discussions at the local level about our water supply, about our interactions with this group, and I think Mr. Coates would be an excellent person to take the helm, and I think it would benefit the organization overall into the future. So I make a motion to approve Mr. Coates and bring and let the chairman negotiate that contract.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I have a second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Truex, a second by Commissioner Langford. Any other discussion? This is an important item for us today.
Mr. Chair, being as we're at that point, I would like to say that I pretty much copy what you and Commissioner Truex have both stated. I've been elected, took office in November of 2006. I think I got on this board in 2010, I think, when Jerry went off. So I've been a member of this board for a while, and I've always said in the past that Pat has always surrounded himself with good people, with smart people, with people that understands this operation and knows how to run it. And I've worked with Mr. Coates, or Coatesy, as I've got to know him over the years, his nickname. But anyway, I think that he would be able to fall right in, and I don't think there's anything broke, so I don't know that we need to fix anything other than we just need to replace Pat's position. And I think Mike is probably the best person, most qualified to take that position. And so I don't have to second guess my decision on this at all. So I know we're in good hands. Continuing right on, it'll be a smooth transition and continue to move forward like we have in the past.
Anything else? Commissioner Cruz.
Yeah, I've only been here for about 6 months, but I've done the best I can to try to follow this, and this is very complex, very critically important to this region. And, you know, well, I've only been here for a few months. A lot of you have been here for years, and I'm just thankful we do have a succession plan, and a succession plan that leads us to a great option to move this forward with everything we've got going in the next 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road. There's a lot of moving parts that doesn't need somebody coming in from scratch, and I'm just thankful to all of you for putting this in place, and I'm fully supportive.
Okay, with that said, Mike, I think you have a lot of people who think very highly of you. We'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Chair votes aye. That motion moves forward 4-0 unanimously, and it's to offer the position of Executive Director to Mike Coates with a contract to be negotiated by the chairman and brought back to the board on August 4th. So congratulations. Okay, that was quite a meeting today. We have no public comments. Anyone here wishing to speak and open to the public? With that said, you see on your agenda, our next board meeting. We're going to be hosted at Manatee County. Commissioner Cruz will set up all the hosting arrangements for that, all of it. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you.